Welcome to Peter and Ruffy's Football Show here on STV. Delighted to have your company, and the main talking points on tonight's programme: patience and discipline. The key is Aberdeen gets set to face Maribor in the first leg of the Europa League qualifier. Kane Hemmings has left Dundee for Oxford United on a 3-year deal, and manager Paul Hartley looks as if he faces a battle to hold on to his other striker, Greg Stewart. And as the transfer speculation gathers pace, we'll discuss the biggest red herring so far. Ruffy's here with me. We're all set to discuss even more football. We'll still talk about the fallout from the Champions League qualifier yesterday as well, Ruffy, as well as a few other deals that could be completed north and south of the border. But first and foremost, patience and discipline the key. Graham Shinnie mentioned that yesterday ahead of Aberdeen's match tonight against Maribor. Of course, you've always got to be wary of little antics to try and get the referee to take action.
Yeah, I thought Aberdeen were a wee bit naive last year, particularly at home. I think they went for the jugular early on and got caught out, and then they're up fighting a losing battle. So I think they'll have learned from the experience in Europe that it's all about just bedding yourself in, keeping possession of the ball and obviously taking chances when they come along.
Yeah, still some tickets available on the night for the match, but I imagine it'll be as close to a sellout as you could wish for.
Yeah, it'll be a fantastic atmosphere. I think anybody that's been up at Pittodrie, when it's full, it's really exciting, and I think most of the players rise to that kind of occasion. And Aberdeen supporters have been excellent through the seasons, home and away. So you would like to see them getting a wee rub of the green.
Yeah, we always seem to focus on, what happens in the central belt as far as signing policies are concerned. Hibs came a cropper against Brøndby. Hearts disappointed against Birkirkara to go out. When you look at Aberdeen, are they short in any area that they could come a cropper in this game over the two legs?
No, I don't think so. I think obviously the failing last year was in the back four. They seemed to be a bit vulnerable from time to time. But obviously, you would like to think that Derek had been working on that. And European football, as we saw yesterday, it's all about possession. It's all about patience. It's all about, just moving your up the park, whenever you can get there. You might have to hold on to it for a while. But the important thing is when you get your chances, you take them.
Of course, the one thing, especially when you watched Celtic in action against Astana yesterday and tonight very much against Maribor, because we don't pay particular attention to their league, the only stats you can look upon with any great certainty is the fact that they've come here to Scottish shores on 3 occasions and they've managed to beat Celtic and they've managed to knock out Rangers and I think Hibs as well. So they're going for their 4th scalp, but they're not as strong, I think, as they were last season.
No, like every other team, that's successful in Europe, like us, they'll lose their top players, and that seems to be the case with them as well. They brought in some others, but you never know, if they're the same quality. But certainly when they came to Parkhead, when they came to Ibrox, they certainly played a really good style of football, really entertaining style of football, and that's something that Aberdeen will have to watch.
OK, I think Aberdeen need a 2-0 win tonight. And clean sheet, everybody likes. It's par for the course, but I think they need 2 goals.
Yeah, I think 2-0 would be easier to defend going away from home. I think when it's 1-0, it's always a wee bit vulnerable. So yeah, you're right. I think if Derek thought you were to give him 2-0 just now, he'd be happy.
Do you prefer home leg first or home leg second?
I prefer playing away from home first and getting something out of that game, and then coming home with possibly a 3-0 lead, to defend at home.
Yeah, wait till I write down how many times you've managed to do that. OK, closer to home. Dundee, a blow. I think, we've had a chat with Paul on more than a few occasions, towards the end of the season and over the summer. The big fear is you're going to lose players. Kane Hemmings joins Oxford on a 3-year deal. They have obviously made a bid that actually released it released a clause in his contract if they met a certain figure. Dundee are helpless. He goes. And now the big fear is Greg Stewart would go as well. That would be a huge blow to Dundee.
Yeah, I heard the interview with Paul after the game, I think when they scored 6 goals and both of them were the stars of that day, and I could tell in his voice he knew there were people watching both of them. I think he knew there was a bid coming in very, very quickly. He was obviously hoping that it would just be for the one of them, but I agree. I think Greg Stewart is still somebody will be looking at and will be prepared. And at this stage of the season, it obviously leaves Paul short-handed because I was away on holiday, as you know. I was led to believe that our man Gary had been told he wasn't in the plans anymore.
Yeah.
Did I read that?
Yep.
Is that correct there? So that would be another blow, you know, that to lose him and the two guys, it would be massive because they were the strength of that Dundee side last year.
Yeah, Hemmings at 25 goals, though, is a huge hole to try and fill, Ruffy. I mean, I'm going to watch Dundee. I don't think they'll be involved in any relegation battle, but it'll be tougher for them now to try and get mid-table if you're trying to replace that type of goal-scoring threat.
Yeah, I think every manager realises that when you've got a player who can chip in with that amount of goals, and I'm sure if you add assists to that as well, you know, it would have been a big player for Dundee. But I think Greg Stewart, if he was to lose him, I think Paul would be in trouble.
Yeah, okay. Just looking at some of the newspapers this morning, Ruffy, with the fallout from Celtic's good 1-1 draw against Astana. Still a job to do there, but Leigh Griffiths at the centre of a couple of things. First of all, I think Astana have posted a video in his altercation in the penalty box with the Astana player Igor Shitov, and I'm not making up his name, by the way, that is his name, but I think they were trying to suggest that maybe he'd thrown a punch, I think trying to get him in trouble.
Yeah, well, we never got a chance to see that. I mean, we just saw off camera. Again, if we look at it again, unfortunately, if he has thrown a punch, you know, like UEFA are, you know, if they see anything like that, retrospective, he might get something. Let's hope that's not the case. Let's hope that it was, you know, two players just pushing each other out the road.
Much ado about nothing, to be honest with you, Ruffy.
Yeah, well, but I haven't seen it because it was off camera, but I'm saying as if camera was to prove that he'd had elbowed him or something like that, you know, then it'd be very, very unfortunate because he's going to be a massive player in the next game. Yeah.
Have you ever actually activated your Twitter account that you have? You know, there's lots of people following you. I just wonder when you're eventually going to interact with them.
Maybe this year, you know, maybe I'll find the button that interacts.
Maybe if you could actually, I can hear my producer saying, maybe if you could A, remember the password, and B, get a bigger phone so you can see the screen.
Yeah.
It's always helpful. Just a couple of minor things that I thought I'd highlight to you.
Yeah, well, obviously the other minor thing is obviously you've got to actually post something.
Yes.
You know, which would take a while, you know, with just the one finger getting through all this. But I'll eventually get there.
Yeah, okay, I'm going to try and help you with that, Ruffy, as much as possible, because you do have your own separate one, as well as the one that we do at Peter and Ruffy, where I basically answer on your behalf. Now, the other thing I was going to mention about Leigh Griffiths, he's been singing the praises of Patrick Roberts, and no surprise because the young man put in a good performance. Again, if anything, I think Patrick Roberts is one of those players that if he shows it consistently this season, you know, there may be a point where Celtic might think about could they place an offer to get him on a more permanent deal, or maybe just accept the fact, like Jason Denayer, that he's there and he's going to go back to Man City and then eventually get punted onto a club. Because I'll be honest with you, no disrespect to Patrick Roberts, I don't see him at this moment with a long-term future at Manchester City. I just think no matter what happens, sometimes I think they're looking at players that, I mean, they're looking at John Stones at 50 million.
But I think the unfortunate thing for Celtic is that they have paid money for him. You know, they have paid, what was it, 12 million? You know, so they want to try and recoup some of that.
Well, I think that might include add-ons and the like.
I don't think they would let him go cheaply. You know, that's the unfortunate thing. But certainly if you talk to the boy, it looks as if he's enjoying every minute of it. Champions League football, he's never ever going to get a chance of that, as you say, at Man City. So the more games he plays in, the more plaudits he gets, the more people say he's a bit of a player. I mean, that stadium itself, you know, European nights is enough to sway anybody to sign a contract. But I think I agree with you. I don't think he's got a future at Man City. Yeah,
and the one thing I would say to you, Ruffy, he will learn. He'll become a better player playing at Celtic regularly every week. It was a great bit of tenacity. You know, he never gave up. It was like chasing what seemed a lost cause to eventually set up Leigh Griffiths with a goal-scoring opportunity, which he duly dispatched into the net. But if he can improve on things, I think, you know, he reminds me a little bit like, you know, James McFadden at times. Sometimes passing and getting that delivery in.
Yeah, well, people already are labelling him as a one-trick pony. You know, left foot, cut in, shot. You know, and if he can add, he's still a young lad, if he can add something else to his game,
Yeah.
it'd be fantastic. But certainly, I thought he was really impressive yesterday.
Yeah, well, to be fair, Ruffy, they said Davy Cooper was a one-trick pony with a left foot, but I'd have 11 Davy Coopers every night of the week.
All going the one way.
All going the one way. It's just if you've got a magical left foot, that's good enough for me. Anyway, I digress slightly. There's more football talk, including the Rangers boss Matt Warburton coming up next. Join us if you can. Welcome back to Peter and Ruffy's Football Show. The main talking points on tonight's programme, of course, Aberdeen in action in the Europa League very shortly. Let's hope they get that first leg advantage that will see them through over the 2 legs against Maribor from Slovenia. And of course, Celtic celebrating a 1-1 draw against Astana. I think Lee Griffiths has dismissed reports that he was involved in a punch with one of the Kazakhstan players in that match yesterday. But he's also been singing the praises of Patrick Robertson. Of course, the news which will be painful for Dundee fans, Kane Hemmings scored 3 in 2 matches at the start of the season, and he scored 25 last season. He has been sold to Oxford United. He's signed for them on a 3-year deal. So that's the main talking points. Of course, around about this time, it's always transfer speculation that gathers pace. At times I used to love, as a small boy, Ruffy, getting up in the morning and you'd look at the back page, and see some of the players that were potentially signing for clubs. It was always good to see that headline. As time goes on, you become more cynical. You know that some of them are a complete, red herring. There's just not a chance. So I particularly enjoyed the Robin van Persie story, because the only people that seemed to benefit out of that seemed to be the bookmakers or people who actually were incredibly gullible.
Yes, but again, as you keep telling me in this game, never commit yourself. But I'm like you, I looked at it and was absolutely astounded. But
yeah, astounded, was that the word you're looking for?
Yeah, but as I travelled about today, as I do, and meet people,
yes,
it's amazing how many people do take it in and believe, wanting the inside story of is it not, so these kind of stories, whoever feeds them out there absolutely grasp the football supporters' imagination. Yeah,
I think there was a couple of little things in it that maybe would have, sometimes if you read something, you don't read it completely to the end in certain newspapers. You don't really get the full picture, and the mere fact of he's on £5 million a year and he's still got 2 years of the deal left kind of threw up, a major warning sign there that I thought, wow, Rangers have just returned to the Premiership and suddenly they've decided to blow their entire budget or their structure that seemed to be keeping most players happy, give or take, some who wanted a new contract when Joey Barton arrived, but, he's 32 years of age. If he's going to go anywhere, he's going to go back to the Premier League in England. And again, this is no disrespect to Rangers, it's just one of those stupid stories.
Yeah, but I'm led to believe that he has always wanted to sort of base himself in the west of Scotland, at some stage.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, Ruffy, and I'm not going to go down the political road here, but the west of Scotland and Turkey, there's not too much of a and having been in Fenerbahce's ground, I think I was at a European game where Champions League game, I think it was, and Rangers were playing Fenerbahce, and the Fenerbahce fans were in the stadium 2 hours before the game kicked off. I mean, when the press are in there, they're usually in ahead of all the supporters before the gates open. The Fenerbahce fans were in 2 hours before it, and the thing I remember about it was there wasn't really any hint of any fines being handed out for the flares and the sounds of what seemed like bombs being let off inside the ground. It was the most unbelievable atmosphere, and I think they had a huge banner that said "Welcome to Hell." And I thought, this is setting the tone for the match. At the end of the day, I think Mark Warburton even today was laughing it off, as how this gathered any pace at all in his mind was just ludicrous.
Yeah, I mean, I thought April had came very, very early this year, but no, as I said earlier, supporters love that kind of thing.
Yeah,
they love it.
Well, do you know what it reminds me of, Ruffy? It reminds me of 3 women who got into a taxi and said, yep, Maurice Johnson will sign for Rangers. And I don't think you can discount anything, that can happen along the way. 20 years ago, you wouldn't have ruled that out. That could have happened 20 years ago, but maybe not today in the current state of financial situation in Scottish football, to be fair. Have we given that enough time? should we add another 3 or 4 minutes of just being completely and utterly silly about it? The one thing I would say to you that's pertinent to Mark Warburton is he still wants 2 players in.
Yeah, and smart manager. You know, the more players you can get in, the better. He knows he's brought 7 or 8, 9 players in. You know, but obviously he'd be very fortunate if the 9 of them hit the ground running.
Yeah.
So the more players you get in there, the more variety that you've got is better for the team all round. Because I think deep down he knows he's still got a test to come. He's played Motherwell and they did well there, but there are bigger tests round the corner. And I just think, from a Rangers point of view and the supporters there, they'll be interested to see who that is.
Yeah.
But it's not going to be Van Persie, as you say.
No, it's not going to be Van Persie. But the funny thing about it, Ruffy, because of the real popularity of social media these days, Twitter, Facebook, you name it, Instagram, people read into things, and right now on Twitter they're all going crazy because Scott Sinclair, the Aston Villa player, has apparently taken off Aston Villa in his bio details on Twitter, and everybody's going, well, could this mean that Celtic are finally within the next couple of days going to get Scott Sinclair if they're going to cough up the money that Villa want for him?
Yeah, well, obviously it's a Celtic way, to start low and gradually work their way up to a reasonable fee, and that seems to be the case. But Aston Villa are just holding out. I think this will possibly be the 4th or the 5th bid that's going in. So I think when the crunch comes, they'll have to pay the money.
What do you make of Callum Patterson? I mean, this is one that I was reading today with great interest. He's got a year left in his deal, and if the talk should stall, sufficient time before that window closes, Hearts might consider cashing in on him.
Mm-hmm. Well, again, he's just been introduced to the Scotland squad. It remains to be seen whether he's in the future ones, whether he's actually good enough to be in the side. But certainly, again, as we saw with the Dundee player, that there are clubs out there see a bargain, and he would come into that category. He's still a very young player, and I'm sure Hearts would want to put him on a contract.
Yeah. What do you make of Craig Beattie signing for Edinburgh City? I mean, that was certainly when I saw the press release saying, that we were having a press conference at 7:45. Where we will unveil a player who's had major experience north and south of the border and played at international level. I thought, okay. He's 32, Craig. He's a friend of the programme. We wish him well.
Yes, I certainly do. And again, it's a new club coming in. They'll have a lot of ambitions, and sometimes when you go to a club like that, you can cash in on it and then help them along the road. And as we all know, Craig's just trying to sign for every club in Scotland before his career actually runs
That'll
out.
get back to him. He'll still not beat Chick. Chick Charnley holds the record. 23 clubs. It's absolutely sensational from Chick. Okay, the other deals that I want to talk about just quickly. Hamilton have signed the former Ross County goalkeeper Gary Woods from Leyton Orient. He was on loan at Ross County, so they've signed him. The blow is Jesus Garcia Tenya, who's going to be out for 6 months with knee ligament injury.
Yeah, sometimes if you listen to the people in the know, a leg break's better than that. Obviously heals quicker, but certainly they'll be hoping that he can come back. Sometimes players recover much maybe than others, and they'll be hoping that he comes back a lot earlier. Yeah,
there was a wee story yesterday, and I meant to get it in yesterday's programme, Ruffy, but I thought I would mention it now. Ayr United, Ian McCall, signed a new deal, and I think it's to 2018, which is great. I'm delighted for him. He's a character that if you don't know him, you might get the wrong impression of him. I think he's a great lad, and I'm delighted that he's signed a deal. A bit of security. He showed a bit of loyalty back to them. I think, for whatever times he's gone off the rails, he's stuck at it, and he's been rewarded at Ayr United.
Yeah, he certainly has been rewarded. I can't believe he was out of the game for so long. I think if you get a chance to look at his CV at the clubs he was at, Dundee United, the likes, and I can see why Ayr United have given him a longer deal. Since he's went there, they've been on the up, and they keep going on the up, and they've had fantastic results this year. And it's a very progressive board down there, and they see a manager that they need to try and hold on to.
Just before we go, Ruffy, I know you were worried about Paul Pogba's agent maybe not getting the slice of the deal that he deserved. They reckon that deal could be signed, sealed and delivered from Juventus to Manchester United. It looks as if it's going to be 90 odd million. Man United would pay the agent 20 million, and Juventus have agreed to stump up apparently 4 million on this, just to get 4 million to the agent, not to anybody else.
That's nice of them.
You know,
that's right. It's a nice club to be at. Even better if you're a good agent and you can identify a player like that. Has he got anybody else? Does he need anybody else?
Yeah.
The agent, is that his only player?
listen, at the end of the day, I'm going to call him anyway. Can you do anything for an ageing international goalkeeper who's been to 3 World Cups?
Yes.
That's all I'm going to say, Ruffy. And the last point on this, Premier League clubs are actually discussing that away fans should get a better viewing position at grounds in England. Is that something that we should be looking at up here, just briefly?
Yeah, well, if you speak to some fans that come down, they get their restricted areas. It's not fair if you're playing the same money as everybody else.
Good way to finish on the fans' side. Thanks for watching. Good night.